is an amazing thing. It's powerful. It can be powerfully good or powerfully destructive. In a good way, it can keep us warm. It can bring us light. In a destructive way, it can hurt people, burn down buildings, destroy entire towns and cities. Today, we're going to talk about our sexuality. And sex is like fire. Within the proper context and the right boundaries, sex can be life-giving, beautiful, and can bring us joy and happiness. Outside of the context of marriage, though, sex can be destructive. Just like fire, outside of its right context, can be destructive. The world tells us, do whatever makes you happy, and it offers options like safe sex or hooking up. But the church offers us something much better. It says that within the boundaries of marriage, that sex is life-giving. And today we're going to talk about what's the purpose of waiting. Why wait? In our last lesson, we talked about what it takes to build virtue and to become the man or woman of God that He's calling us to be. And today we're going to talk about a very powerful virtue, probably a very misunderstood virtue, chastity.
Jason, how far is too far?
I think the easiest way to answer that is for you to answer it for us. So let's say, what's your name?
Connor.
Connor. Okay, Connor, let's say you meet the woman of your dreams and you fall in love, you get married, go off for the honeymoon, come back, you have a little baby girl, and you're just in love, and you name her just Connorette or whatever, and and you raise her up, teach her how to ride a bike, and she turns 16 years old. Connor gets a knock at the door. It's your daughter's date for the high school prom. So calmly, Connor picks up the baseball bat, goes to the door, and you swing the door open, and there's this guy standing there to pick up your little princess, and he's got like 5 or 6 facial piercings. He's got the big old gauge earrings and tattoo sleeves, and you look over his shoulder, and there in your driveway is his car. He's not driving a car. He's driving a big old minivan with a mattress in the back seat. Now, how far is too far for him to go with your daughter that night? No, the driveway.
Nowhere,
That's about as far as they're going to go tonight, the driveway. Because as a father, the standards you'd set for your daughter would be as high as heaven. And so if this is the standard with which we expect guys to treat our girls one day, well, we should treat God the Father's daughters with the same amount of reverence. And it is a challenge, but if you love somebody, you want to protect them from all harm, physical, emotional, spiritual. One guy came up after the talk and he said, Jason, he said, I love my girlfriend. He said, look, we're sleeping together, but he said, I love her so much. He said, I would die for her. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, I'm serious. He said, if someone put a gun to her head, I would say, put that gun to my head. I would die for her. I love her that much. I'm like, for real, you would die for her? He's like, yeah, I would do it. I said, okay, do it. And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, look, nobody's going to be shooting your girlfriend unless she's involved in organized crime or some Mexican drug cartel. You don't have to worry about people shooting your girlfriend. You don't have to protect her from the mafia, all right? You got to protect her from yourself. Protect her from the sin of lust. Because John Paul II said, the greater the feeling of responsibility you have for your beloved, the more real love you have. I was speaking at a public high school in Texas once, and a girl came up after the talk, and she's dating this controlling, possessive, abusive older guy, and he just treats her like garbage. And I said, sweetie, you're so much better than this. You just got to break up. And she said, I can't break up. I've given him everything, my emotions, my heart, my virginity, just everything. And I said, okay, look, you don't feel like you can break up, just tell him no more sex and watch what happens. She said, okay, I'll try that. She took her necklace off and she gave it to me. She said, he makes me wear this, he's so possessive. Can you get rid of it? I'm like, yeah, I'll throw it away. And she leaves and comes back in 20 minutes. And she said, I dumped him. I said, that was fast, what happened? She said, I told him I wouldn't sleep with him anymore, and he slammed his locker shut. He threw a book at me. He said, where's your necklace? She said, I gave it to the chastity guy. And you would see what happened with this girl. It dawned on her for the first time that chastity is not about following all these rules so you don't get pregnant and die of an STD and go to hell. I mean, it has those benefits, but the purpose of chastity is to free us to fall in love for all of the right reasons. And chastity is a virtue, like courage or honesty, that applies to our sexuality. And it doesn't eliminate our sexual attractions or desires. What it does is it orders those desires according to the demands of authentic human love. And what it does for us is it frees us to love. It frees us to know if we're being loved as well. Think of it this way. I was watching a soda commercial, and there's this lady sitting in a restaurant, and she's staring at this can of soda across the way. like she is just infatuated with it, just lusting after this can of soda, which we know happens at restaurants every day around the world. And what happens is in the middle of her and this can of soda is a guy who kind of gets caught in the crossfire. And he's sitting there looking at her and thinking, wow, you know, she's really into me. And so he thinks, I must be pretty good looking. So he comes over to where she's sitting, you know, introduces himself, and she looks up and she's like, oh, can I help you? What is it you want? And he realized, oh, wait a minute, she never wanted me to begin with. She just wanted this other thing that was beyond me. And so often with lust, what you discover is perhaps the person isn't in love with you. This person sees you as a potential means of enjoyment. So this is one of the beauties of chastity. It lets us experience authentic sexual desires. So it frees us to know if we're really being loved. It also frees us to love. It doesn't, as I say, kill your attractions. It lets you experience them in the fullness, where you can sit there and think, okay, why am I really sexually attracted to this woman? Is it merely because I see her body as a potential means of enjoyment? Or am I really attracted to her as a whole person, her personality, her intellect, her humor, her spirituality? This is one of the tremendous values of chastity. It lets you experience authentic sexual attractions. And it also lets you freely love. Because look, if I'm controlled by my hormones, by my desires, I'm not free to love, because you can't give what you don't possess. And if I don't possess self-control, I can't make ultimately a gift of myself. And in the end, this virtue of chastity opens our eyes to see what the whole purpose and meaning of our sexuality is. You remember in our chapter on marriage, we talked about the wedding vows and promises need to be free, total, faithful, and fruitful. And human sexuality, if you've ever thought about it, is just saying your wedding vows in your body. That you leave the church as a husband and wife, you go off to your honeymoon, and the night of their wedding, in their bodies, they speak these vows. I give my body tonight to you freely. I'm not coercing you, I'm not manipulating you, I'm not pressuring you, I'm certainly not paying you. It's a free gift of self. It's a total gift of self. I give you my entire self, my fatherhood. I hold nothing back from you. It is a faithful gift, not just with your body, but even with your imagination. And it is a fruitful gift, meaning it is open to life, the procreation, the giving of children. What the church is asking us to do with chastity is just speak the truth with your body. That if you're going to speak the language of sexuality, you're speaking the language of marriage. And don't give your body to someone before you give yourself to them fully as a spouse. Now, if our bodies are capable of speaking the truth, our bodies are also capable of speaking lies. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk about how you can actually speak a lie with the language of your body, perhaps without even realizing it.